All right, dude, we are live. What's up, guys? This is Dem Keys, and hold on. Before I begin today's study stream, we are doing yet another study stream, by the way. We are doing Rust studies, and I didn't get a chance to express my excitement about this, but I started using Gemini CLI, and holy shit, dude, let me tell you, for a person with a terminal based workflow, a terminal centric workflow, or even a keyboard centric workflow. For a person like me who primarily uses the terminal for a bunch of their different tasks, Gemini CLI it is it's a blessing. Not having to not having to tab back into Firefox just so I can, create a new just so I can create a new tab and then open up the Gemini web interface in there and start up a new conversation. It's a huge, it's a huge blessing. It is a huge help. And I mean, I'm still using Google's own cloud resources. The Gemini model is not running on my machine, but I'm okay with that. I've looked into the specifics surrounding using Gemini, and there's still a lot more that I have to read up on. But holy shit, I'm excited for this because, dude, Gemini CLI is able to do, it's able to take certain actions for you. Of course, with your consent, not without your consent. It's going to ask you, it's going to say that, hey, I want to take so and so action. What do you want to do? And then it'll give you a couple of choices for stuff that you want to do. And all this is happening within the terminal itself. It's Gemini CLI, so the thing is running within the terminal. And it's great. It is great, dude. Like here I have, hold on, let me show you guys. So this is our conversation taking place with Gemini, which is this is the conversation in which Gemini is teaching us Rust. I would scroll back all the way to the top to show you the prompt, but I don't know if I don't know if scrolling all the way back is going to cause any sort of slowdown, even though scrolling back is not really scrolling back through Gemini. It's in this case, it would be scrolling back in the scroll back buffer of Tmux, which should be pretty well optimized. It shouldn't actually, you know what? No, I don't think it's going to cause issues. It's just a scroll back buffer. So let me show you the from the beginning. This is the prompt that I'd used, and I also gave Gemini the entire syllabus in JSON form because I realized that each time I give Gemini the prompt, it's going to generate a different list of chapters. It's going to generate the syllabus containing almost the same information, but like it might be in different order. So that might cause some confusion, because of which I was like, okay, let me ask Gemini to just serialize this list into JSON, and then I can create a separate prompt in which I take the initial text of the prompt and I also put in this serialized JSON data containing the syllabus, so that then Gemini can follow this syllabus. Why was I explaining this? I forgot why I was. I think I was just trying to explain why I'm using JSON here, and then I had to change a little bit of. So this was the remainder of the prompt, in which I mentioned instructions. So like I said, you will load chapters one by one, when instructed to do so. When a chapter is loaded, I want theory, an explanation, and an exercise program to practice. The example program is very important, but something of equal importance, I meant to write importance, but I wrote important, is that it has to be an incredibly simple and small program, because I only have like 30 to 60 minutes. So this is like, this is an older prompt. And back then I had this thing where I was like, okay, I decided that, okay, I'm going to dedicate 30 to 60 minutes daily to learning Rust. And then I'll be able to move on to doing something else. But then I started giving a little more time than just 30 to 60 minutes. And so I'm not really paying too much attention to that. But then the prompt is the prompt is still that. So further on, I guess I told it about a command that it's supposed to respond to, which is change chapter, which I can just give regular instructions. I can just say regularly that, hey, change the chapter. What was I saying? Yeah, yeah. And then I had to add something at the end there where it says, hold on. So here where it says chapter 5, uh, or we already, no, here where it says go. So from here, I wanted to add something extra because at this point I had added this prompt, and I was kind of restarting because I was restarting the conversation because I had installed Gemini CLI and I was trying to move the conversation from Gemini Web over to Gemini CLI, and the data is not merged. In fact, on Gemini, in Gemini Web, you can load some of the previous conversations that you've had, and you can continue from there. But in the case of Gemini CLI, it's each conversation is its own thing, and there's no history or anything saved. Which, dude, I kind of like that approach as well because not all the conversations that I have with Gemini, not all of them I necessarily want them to be saved, if that makes sense. Not because there's something secret in it. It's just like not everything has to be saved. So some conversations are just quick scratch conversations that I might have like a doubt or something. I'll clear up the doubt with Gemini and then I can close Gemini and everything just goes away. And then the next time I open up Gemini through the CLI, it's going to be a brand new conversation. Why was I saying this? I forgot. Oh, yeah. So I was talking about how I was moving the conversation over from Gemini Web to Gemini CLI. And that's why I had to add this last bit mentioning we are already done up to chapter 5. At this point, I think we are on chapter, I don't know, 7 or 8 or something. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm going to have to go. Actually, wait, I can check this list here. Yeah, we are currently on chapter 7, which is collections. And we are we are halfway there, I guess you can say. Yep, we are halfway there. So yeah, I had to tell it that we are resuming from chapter 6 because we are done with chapter 5, and this way it wouldn't what do you call it? It wouldn't start from chapter 0, which is the basics with the syntax and stuff like that. And I also wanted to mention that when giving me examples, don't set up examples that involve you taking actions. Set up examples where you can show me code examples and give me instructions for things to do. I'm trying to learn the language, and having you type out the code for me doesn't help me learn. So this is something I feel is this was kind of like the default behavior of, or rather, I should say, the default behavior of Gemini caused me to say this because what I noticed is Gemini was, and this is good in its own way, what Gemini was doing, but that's not what I was looking for. What I was noticing was that Gemini, in terms of creating examples, what it would do is because Gemini CLI has file read write access, so it would create the example for me by writing out the code in a code file. And then it would tell me that, okay, go and edit this file. So and so is, this is the code that's been put into it, and figure out why it's not compiling, or what would cause to be, or what would cause the compilation to fail, or what would cause the program to panic or anything like that. So you then read the code, and if you have understood what you've been taught in that chapter, then you would be able to figure out how to fix that issue. And that's a valid way of learning. That makes it more of like a labs kind of experience, if that makes sense. I'm not sure how to explain that well, but it does make it like a more labs kind of experience where they create the entire thing for you, but there's a very specific, like they'll set up a scenario for you, and then there's specific goals, specific objectives that you have to complete, and that is your way of learning. And I feel like that's a valid way of learning as well. Um, Essentially, it was vibe coding the exercises for me. But I didn't want that. That's not a bad approach. Once again, I want to reiterate, that's not a bad approach. It's just not the approach that I wanted. At some point in the future, maybe I might try that approach. But for the time being, I wasn't looking for that approach. I wanted Gemini to tell me that, hey, do this, do this, do this, do this. And I wanted to write the code myself. In this specific instance, I wanted to write the code myself because um, I want experience of actually writing the code. I want to gain experience of actually writing the code, not having the code written for me and then me correcting whatever mistakes might be there in it. And me being able to write the code myself is going to make me more experienced in it, and it's going to make me more comfortable with the language. So that's what I was looking for. That's why I had to add this last portion. But yeah, dude, holy shit, Gemini CLI. You guys need to try this out. Like even the setup process was simple. Fortunately, because I already had npm, which is a Node package manager, I already had npm installed, so I was able to install Gemini CLI very easily. And the reason I had npm already installed, even though I don't really use Node, but the tech that I use, it uses Node. So in my case, I believe npm was I believe it was used for a couple of things, but one of the things it was definitely used for was I believe Pyrite. Yeah, I think Pyrite was installed using npm. Initially, when I had started using NeoVim, then I had to install various things to enable different language support in NeoVim. So for Python, I had to install Rough, which is a formatter, and Pyrite, which is a linter. And Pyrite would fail to install. And then I looked at the error, and I was like very new to all of this. So it took me a bit to figure it out. And well, Gemini was a huge help for me. I fed the errors into Gemini, and then Gemini told me that, okay, you need to install so and so, so and so, so and so. And then through that, it's gonna install. So NeoVim, or I believe it was more specifically Mason, which is a package manager for like external components that you would install in LazyVim. Mason was trying to look for npm so that it could then use npm to install Pyrite. And when it wasn't able to find npm, then the entire installation process would just fail. So yeah, I then installed first I installed I think I believe it was called nvm. Yeah, nvm is like a separate thing through which you install Node.js and npm. So I had to install nvm first. Fortunately, there's like very clear instructions for installing all of this stuff, but just in case people get confused, I believe I did make my own journal entry for that. Also, I've been looking at it. Wait, hold on. I was saying that there was something I was excited about. Well, yeah, okay, the Gemini thing is what I'm excited about. Other than that, there was something surprising that happened shortly before the stream began. I opened up OBS on my Linux machine. And, the Linux machine is the machine on which this is happening. So I opened up OBS on this machine to be able to, stream the RTMP feed. And I opened it up. So usually I would open it up by clicking the icon, but this time I decided to open it up using the terminal. And when I opened it up using the terminal, this time it gave me that window asking which screen I want to capture. Even though screen capture was selected, screen capture is supposed to be just a screen capture, but apparently screen capture does give you the option for selecting windows and capturing the full screen, which I don't know if this has always been a thing and I just never paid attention to that. So I wrongly thought that okay, I can just never capture individual windows, but yeah, in this case I was able to pick the window that I wanted to capture. And this is great because now I feel like I can set up a multi-window kind of approach, if that makes sense. Like if I want to, let's say I want to launch a separate terminal, and within that terminal I want to launch a program that has a green screen, and it's going to pop up notifications each time I get like a follow or get a chat message or whatever it may be. um, I can set up that separate window and then have OBS also capture that separate window, but then layer that on top of this current window. And of course, use chroma keying to, green screen the green stuff out. And then we'll have like a transparent kind of thing. This is great. No, this is exciting for me. I need to look into this after the stream. After the stream is done, I need to look more into this because I did not realize this until literally like seconds before well, okay, not seconds, literally minutes before I went live. Actually, I haven't tested this thing out. This is a bit risky because I don't know what's. Hold on. Let's hide this real quick so I can come back here. Okay, we are good. So now I'm gonna show this again. And yeah, it's not capturing the full screen like it usually does. Now it is capturing just this window. And that's great, dude. That's amazing. So that basically means that I don't need to have this window. I don't need to be looking at this window. Usually I would need to be looking at it so that, screen capture would actually capture it. But now I don't need to be looking at it. I can be tabbed into some other window or be tabbed into my into Firefox to look at my stream manager or anything like that. Like, dude, this is a game changer. This actually changes things because I'd been having like ideas pop up for stuff that I could do, VTuber related stuff, streaming related stuff that I could do using Rust and Ratatouille, which is a TUI framework for Rust. I was getting ideas for stuff that I could do. And I wasn't sure how well a lot of it would work out, but like it's starting to seem like it might work out pretty damn well. Like imagine if I'm able to move. Okay, at this point I'm really considering like okay, I'm not going to say that it's going to be it's going to be a complete rewrite of my entire VTuber program, but I do want to try a different approach this time. I want to try an approach which has multiple smaller components, and I'm going to build tools as the need arises. Build any I'm not going to build anything for future proofing, if that makes sense. I'm not going to put in features that are for future proofing. So for the time being, what I have in mind is okay, I can have one separate program for what do you call it? Why am I losing my words? I can have a separate program for my VTuber stuff. Um, I have some ideas for what I want to accomplish with it, and I'm gonna try my best to accomplish it using Ratatouille, because the whole idea is to accomplish it using Ratatouille, not using any kind of 3D graphics or 2D graphics library. I want it to be like a primarily terminal based approach. There's going to be two benefits to that. One, I'm going to have a terminal based VTuber puppeteering program. And two, I'm going to gain more experience with Ratatouille so that I can then take that experience and work on a game in Ratatouille, or work on a game using Ratatouille, which is another thing that I wanted to do. Something else that I might need to do, um, I'm gonna have to see to what extent I'm able to accomplish this. Because, like, okay, I want to connect my audio interface to my Linux machine, and up until this point, I haven't managed to do that because each time I connect the interface, um, probably due to some configuration issues, Linux doesn't recognize the the interface, and so I'm not able to use the mic that's connected to the interface, which is basically this mic that I'm using right now. So what I want to try and do is set up set up my audio interface um, to work on Linux. And if it is working on Linux, then I can run my VTuber app on there itself, which I was planning on doing that anyways, because I want the thing to be audio reactive. So there's definitely going to be some audio reactive related crates involved. Um, I'm gonna be looking into various different components. It'll be an interesting project to work on. And I'm excited to see how this goes because it's going to be running primarily on Linux. I'm going to slowly move a bunch of the stuff that I was doing on Windows. I'm going to slowly move it over to Linux. I even have my middleware app, which I'm going to be honest, at this point, the app is just kind of there. It's not I'm not really doing too much with it. In the past, I had this thing set up because, like, in the middleware app, the whole idea was that it's kind of like a bridge between the Twitch API and uh my my what do you call it, my VTuber application. And it was supposed to be a kind of thing where there's a system for the chat, there's a system for the rewards, there's a system for like channel point rewards, and there was a system for something else as well. I don't remember what else I had set up in there, but there were these different systems that were being handled. And for the rewards system, at one point they deprecated the endpoints that were, or rather they deprecated the system itself. I believe it was the pub sub system that they deprecated, and they wanted people to move over to the event sub system. So I just never got around to setting that up because I was doing other stuff. So maybe, actually, I should see if the Twitch Rust crate has something like that. Yeah, I should look into that because that way I can have like a separate component for my VTuber model. I can have a separate app for my VTuber model, and then I can have a separate app for notifications, which will pop up notifications specifically. So stuff like, hey, so and so follow, so and so raid, so and so. I don't know, chat message. Maybe I can add in the chat message thing in there as well. There is a crate, but like Okay, I can't show it right now because I'm not capturing my Firefox browser right now. So I'm not going to be able to open it up. Anyways, either way, we're supposed to be learning with Gemini. So I was doing this yesterday, even off stream. So on stream, I think we reached up to the point where, hold on, we can actually scroll back here and check. So on stream, we were up to, I think it was the modules, crates, and packages chapter. So it first taught us how to use modules. Fortunately, I had the information, and I kind of realized this about learning through Gemini. It's that sometimes you might get outdated information. Sometimes you might not get all of the information that you could get, which is fair. There's only so much information that it can give you, and when there's a vast amount of information, then it's going to pick and choose the most important parts that it can give you, that it can fit within its response within a reasonable size, right? So that's fair. Fortunately, I knew that when it comes to modules, there was the older method and the newer method, and so I had to kind of like poke it a little bit. I had to challenge it a little bit. I had to be like, um, I don't remember what I said. Hold on. It's Yeah, I said the module setup you're using, where we create a mod. So, okay, the old setup, which I'm talking about that Gemini had suggested, was this thing where you create you create a directory with the name of the module, and then you create a mod file, and then I believe in that mod file you put your code, and then any other files that you want within any other sub modules that you want within that module, you create like, I think you would either create files for each of them, or maybe you would create directories for each of them. I don't remember. At least for that parent module, you would need to create a directory with the module's name, but then within that directory, you would need to create a mod.rs file, which is somewhere here. Yeah. So in this case, here's a good example where you create where's the directory structure? Okay, it didn't show the directory structure, but the directory structure that it was suggesting. Do I have Yahtzee open somewhere? Um, Hold on. I can open up Yahtzee here. So what it was suggesting was, I'll put it in here. What it was suggesting was that I wait. Is this a repo? This is not a repo. I can delete these. So what it was suggesting was this. Let's say there's a module that you want to add called greetings, right? So you would create a greetings directory, and within that directory, you would create a mod.rs file. And then if you want to have submodules within that module, then let's say greeting in English, that would be english.rs, and then greeting in Spanish, that would be spanish.rs. So this is the method that it was suggesting, right? This was used prior to, I believe, 2018 in Rust, but then after 2018, or in 2018 or whenever, after that they launched this feature where you didn't need this mod thing. You could get rid of this, and in the same directory where you're creating that submodules directory. Basically, if you wanted just the module itself, let's say this is your directory where you have your source directory, right? This is where you're gonna wait. I need to put this here. So let's say this is your source. This is your source directory where you're gonna have all your code, And here you also have your main.rs file. And let's say you want to add a module in here, but the module has to be, it's big enough that it has to be in a separate file. So instead of doing the whole mod.rs thing, you could just create a greetings.rs file, and within that file you can define your functions and stuff, and then within your main.rs file you would first type mod um, greetings, so that it would know that it has to create this kind of module. Then it'll look for the code, and it's going to find the code in greetings.rs. So the rules for sorry about that, accidentally hit my mic. The rules for finding modules, it has, Rust mainly has three ways for finding, I guess they call it finding the path for the module. One, it's going to look for it inline, meaning if you have defined the module within the main.rs file. Two, it's going to look for an external file with that name, and the thing that has, so basically an external file with that name with the code inside it. If it finds that, then it's gonna pull that code and bring it into scope. And three, it's gonna use the older method in which you would um, hold on, in which you would have this kind of thing. So it'll look for a directory with that name, and then within that it'll look for the mod.rs thing. Give me a second. Actually, there's an ad break going on right now, so I'm gonna hydrate real quick, and I'll see you guys in like, I don't know, 15 seconds. Okay, welcome back. So yeah, this is what we were learning yesterday. Yesterday I did a mute stream, and dude, this is great because uh, now I can actually show the Gemini conversations that are taking place. And another thing that's amazing is that now I will be able to capture multiple windows through OBS. I'm going to have to test out how well that's going to work. But I'm excited to try that out, like separate windows for each of these things. Sorry about that. Yeah. Um, I'm excited to test this out and see how well this works out, because being able to capture different windows, like currently I'm capturing the Kitty terminal on my Linux machine. Oh, you're joking, dude. Hold on just a minute. What I was showing just now, none of it showed up. None of it showed up on stream. I don't think it did. I'm not sure. Hold on, let me go back here. Okay. Yeah, I need to check if. Okay, it is not capturing. Yeah, that's an issue. Yeah, that is definitely an issue. So, you guys did not get to see what I was showing, which was basically, um, okay, I don't think I'm gonna go over the entire thing again, but I was talking about how, you would have, you know what, I can go over it again. That's fine. So, I was talking about how in Rust, it would look for paths when you specify a module name. So it let's say you have your directory source. This is not a directory. So let's say you have your main source directory, and within this you have your main RS file. So if you want to specify, if you want to create a module, you can create it within the main.rs file itself if the thing is small enough that it can fit in there, or you can put it into a separate file. So the older method of doing the separate file thing was that you would create like a directory kind of thing, let's say greetings, and then within that you would create a mod.rs file and have your code in there. In fact, I'm going to confirm this by actually doing this as well. But yeah, this was the older method. But then after 2018, they made it so you can just create files, uh, greetings.rs. So you can just have this kind of a file, and within this file, you can have your module code. And if this module is supposed to have submodules, then you can create a directory with the same name as a module. And within that, then you don't need this mod.rs thing. Then you can start creating files like you can start creating separate files for each submodule. And for each submodule, you would then need to declare mod inside the parent modules file. So okay, ever since I learned Rust, I wasn't practicing the older uh, module creation way. Um, so what I'm thinking is, where is it? VS Code, I believe. Yeah. Okay, Rust Gemini. Okay, so what we could do is inside source, we can, okay, this is for the sake of examples, right? So we can do veggie, veggie, vegetables. Now, I'm so used to saying vegetables that when I have to say the thing, slowly, vegetables, that seems kind of weird to say. But anyways, we are trying to do this thing. Yeah, okay. So in here we can do mod rs, and then I believe I have this open already. So I could then do um, mod vegetables. There it is. And then I should be able to also open up the vegetables thing here and define a function. So let's say pub function sum underscore veggie o1. And then we can say, wait, this is not Python. Yeah. And then we can say sum underscore veggie o1 called. Okay, cool. Um, oh, yes, yes. So we also need to do use vegetables, and then we can call, in fact, we can also do this. Yeah. And then we can call some veggie or one directly in our main function. So let me save this. And I'm not sure what all is going to happen next here because this was all vector related that I was doing. Um, okay. And there it is, some veggie O1. So this was the older method of doing module related stuff. Let me just close this because I'm gonna yeah, let's, you know what, let's rename this file to vegetables.rs and then we can move it here. So we would still be accomplishing the same thing. This code should still work. It should still compile just fine. Yeah, there's no error and the thing runs. Yeah, cool. Great. Okay, you know what? Yeah, we are gonna continue with the conversation with Gemini. So we are currently on the vector chapter. I've just spent, I don't know how long talking. Also, yeah, now that I'm realizing that the window has to be in focus, that kind of presents a new challenge for me because it seems like OBS is not capturing the window if it's not in focus. Though I don't think that's an OBS issue necessarily. I think that might be, yeah, yeah, you know what? I don't think that might be an OBS issue. That could just be an issue of the terminal itself. Like maybe it's some kind of optimization where if the window is not in focus, then the rendering of it is not going to be updated. That could be a thing. I didn't think about that because um, there's a reason why terminal based stuff is incredibly fast. It's because it's highly optimized. So this might be one of the optimizations. I could be wrong. This could also just be a thing from OBS, though I don't see why OBS would do that because I'm pretty sure the OBS devs are well aware that there are multiple windows that people open up and those multiple windows need to be captured. So I don't think OBS devs would do that. I think this is mainly a terminal optimization, meaning I might need to look into this is so I'm using the Kitty terminal, and Kitty is highly customizable, highly configurable. So I wonder if there might be an option that makes it so I can keep the window constantly rendering, even though it's not in focus right now. Granted, that would probably increase the CPU consumption, but I mean, if I'm going to be streaming off of the machine, I kind of need all the windows to be captured. That's kind of important, especially if I want like the multi-layer kind of thing, like multiple windows layered on top of each other. But dude, I'm excited for this. I'm excited to try out this new approach, and who knows? Maybe I might be able to come up with some interesting effects. Like imagine just having a matrix rain running in the background. I have a Rust-based matrix rain, and I have um, actually there was another Rust project which, what was it called? Yeah, I forgot what the thing was called. Hold on. I'm curious. Let me open. Okay, I'm gonna have to open up my browser and okay, give me a second. I'm just curious about this thing, so I wanna check it out. Actually, okay, while the browser is opening, I can continue here. Oh, wait, shit, I forgot. I'm using a window manager on this machine, on this other machine that I'm doing stuff on. Dude, by the way, window managers are incredibly awesome. Window managers are, yo, they're great because on one of my actually now at this point on two of my machines with older hardware and machines that were running Ubuntu Studio specifically, I didn't want to like reinstall uh, a new lighter OS on there, but at the same time, I didn't want all of the extra stuff that comes with Ubuntu Studio to weigh heavily on the hardware. And it's not even like Ubuntu Studio is badly optimized. So it uses the KDE Plasma desktop environment. Wait, what just happened? Hold up, what just happened? Why did that happen? That was okay. That was weird. Oh, I think I know why that happened. Yeah, I think I know why that happened. Yeah. Okay, never mind. That was part of the thing where um I'm using a window manager. So okay, anyways, window managers. So I was able to kind of get away from using desktop environments and just start using a more primitive approach, a simpler, I should say, much simpler approach, which is just a window manager. There's no start menu. There's no, well, I mean, you can install a separate start menu, but the whole point is there's there's no there's no like heavy status bar. There's no heavy start menu. There's no separate like file manager. There's no separate desktop environment. It's just a window manager. It does come installed with, it does come bundled with a much simpler start menu that you can install. Or I think it does come bundled with it, so you don't need to install it. Uh, but it's incredibly lightweight. It is nowhere near as heavy as KDE Plasma's start menu. And there's a nice, simple status bar at the bottom as well that that gives you certain information. And you can have, I believe, up to 10 workspaces. So in each of those workspaces, you can have multiple windows. And the windows, so this is i3 is, did I mention it's i3? I'm using the i3 window manager. And so i3 is, it's kind of marketed as a tiling window manager, but it does support the other features as well. I think those features got added over time. I don't know what the history is behind it, but it gets marketed as a tiling window manager, meaning you can open up multiple windows and each of the windows is going to occupy um, different portion of the real estate on the screen. So if you have multiple windows, then the window manager will decide how those windows are going to be, you can like change the size of the windows. You can change the order in which the windows are. That's the tiling layout. You then also have a tabbed layout in case you want a tabbed kind of approach where you get to select which window you want to currently view, and then that's going to occupy the entire screen. There's a stacked layout, which it's basically tabbed but in stacked form. So the instead of showing you tabs for the names, it'll show you like a stacked nameplates. And there was another one, I think floating. Floating is the next one, which is a more modern kind of approach. But dude, it is incredibly lightweight. Let me tell you that. It is incredibly lightweight. I have been struggling with KDE Plasma on some of my older machines, and it's not that KDE Plasma is bad necessarily, but it's just that your hardware doesn't automatically evolve. You get what I'm saying? Like the programs that you are using, they might start to become a little more resource hungry over time as more and more features get added to them, or as as whatever is going on in them becomes a little more demanding and they keep getting updated with more and more things getting added, they'll become a little more demanding, and then it's gonna be like it's gonna start to weigh on your resources heavily. And that started happening for me. So it was testing my patience. So I had to do something about it, and holy shit, dude. Window managers are the way to go. Definitely. Like, especially for someone like me who has a very terminal based workflow. And like literally the only time that I'm using UI is if I'm, what was I saying? Yeah, literally the only time that I'm using UI is when I need to open up Firefox. That's at this point, that's quite literally the only thing that I'm using UI for. Everything else, I'm doing it through the terminal and through CLI and TUI based apps. Okay, anyways, we are going to carry on with this. So yesterday I was reading up on this, and I believe I stopped here, or I stopped at the example. Yeah, I think it was the example. I kind of set up my own example for this thing, and I played around with this. Um, so I know that you can access elements of a vector. There are two ways to create a vector. One is the more verbose approach, and the other is a convenient macro that they've created with like array kind of syntax. And there's also stuff like, okay, you can make the vector mutable so that you can add more stuff to it. And there's also like this thing where it'll panic if you try to go out of bounds of the array. If you try to, basically like an index out of bounds exception, that can occur if you try to access something that's out of the index's bounds. Oh, another thing that like I feel like I'm slowly starting to get used to this. I'm slowly starting to understand this thing is that it's Rust's ownership system. The whole thing with like ownership and borrowing, moving versus copying. So that whole thing of like, okay, any given value can only have one owner at a time. Though later on, like as I was learning more advanced Rust stuff, I was introduced to more topics where you do get the option to have multiple owners. I forgot exactly what the situation, like what the specifics were surrounding that. We're gonna visit that whole thing again. There was stuff like what all was there? There was ref cell. I think box comes under the thing as well. Though box is not necessarily for multiple ownership. It's more for like if you have a type that would otherwise be on the stack, but you want to put it on the heap for some reason, then you can use box. But yeah, um, there are certain I don't know what word to use, but like there are certain ways around that one owner per value thing. There is a way for to have multiple owners or multiple something else. I don't remember if it was multiple owners or multiple something else. We're gonna get into that later on. What is in the hold on, let's go back up and look at the syllabus. So there's collections, there's generics, then there's traits, then there's lifetimes. That's a very important concept. I don't think I'm going to ignore generics this time because I made the mistake of ignoring generics when I was first learning Rust, and that did cause some confusion here and there. So I don't think I'm going to ignore that this time. Then traits. Traits is also an interesting concept. I'm at this point, I believe I do remember the whole concept of traits. Like you can create a trait. Essentially, it would work as an interface. Um, like if we are comparing it to other languages, it's kind of like interfaces in C sharp. At least that's what I remember, unless I'm remembering wrong. But yeah, it's like interfaces in C sharp, so it allows you to create a blueprint for for common behavior amongst types. So you can create a trait, and then you can implement that trait for a specific type. You can also implement traits on types that already exist, which is something that I found interesting. You can there are a couple of things surrounding traits, but I believe I do remember a lot of stuff about traits. So that chapter should be fairly quick. We should be done with that pretty quick. I don't know much about trait bounds and derivable traits. Okay, so I guess that'll be something interesting to get into. Then there's the lifetimes thing. Okay. Then there's closures and iterators. Yep, I remember this. Then there's smart pointers, and this is where we get into box, rec, and ref cell. It's not rec, it's RC. Okay, for some reason I was remembering rec. Yeah, box. Oh, RC is for multiple ownership. There we go. So I wasn't remembering wrong. We do get an option for multiple ownership. Though I'd imagine this is in like its own controlled way. You know, yesterday I was thinking about this. I was like, okay, in terms of daily drivers, I kind of want to make both Python and Rust my daily drivers. I don't think Rust is like a good complete replacement for doing data science and ML and deep learning and all of that stuff. I think Python is pretty well suited for that, but I need to come to Rust when I need performance. That's the best way that I can put it. So, for example, the Stream AI voice app that I was planning on working on. Now I'm really considering making it a purely Rust based app instead of going anywhere near Python for it, because the model itself, the Kokoro TTS model, that model itself can be exported to Onyx. And because it can be exported to Onyx, so now I can run that model on any other platform that supports that specific Onyx runtime. So I can run that model in Rust as well. Meaning, at this point, anything else that I would have been doing with Python, stuff like the TUI, stuff like audio, stuff like um, multiple threads, that was something I was really struggling with on the Python side, and I was having to use various other methods like multi-processing and stuff like that. So now I don't have to do any of that. I can just move it over to Rust, and then I'll have a lot more freedom to kind of move around, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll have a lot more freedom to move around and implement stuff and do various things in a much more performant way as well. Let me add that. And hey, this would give me a good excuse to learn multi-threading as well. Yeah, because in this specific instance, I would definitely need multiple threads. The UI would have to be on a separate thread, probably the main thread. I'm gonna have to see how Ratatouille handles its threading and stuff like that. The UI would have to be on a separate thread. The Onyx processing would have to be on a separate thread. We don't want that blocking anything. Though Onyx itself, the Onyx runtime on Rust, it does its own multi-threading, but like that's in a different way. I would kind of want to launch the work from a separate thread itself. I wouldn't like, and then further from that point, if the Onyx runtime wants to do its own multi-threading, it can do that. But like, I kind of want to run the Onyx runtime on a separate thread. And yeah, yeah. And in this way, I can kind of, I can approach, I can build a hybrid of what I wanted to build before. So before I wanted to build a simple version of the Stream AI voice app, and then I wanted to build a multi-threaded version, and then I wanted to build a distributed version. Now I can just build a distributed version, or call it a hybrid version, which is gonna give the user the choice to either have worker threads only on the local machine, or even try and use local threads from other machines. Dude, I'm excited. I'm excited for this. This would be a big project for me to work on, and it would actually introduce me to various different topics, various different concepts, including audio and Rust. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. And this is yet another reason for me to um, do stuff in Ratatouille. This is yet another reason for me to get better at doing stuff with Ratatouille. But yeah, then we have unsafe Rust, and then we have advanced features. Okay, so this goes into this is like a whole separate thing, and macros is also like it's a thing that I would probably get into like much later. For now, I don't think I'm gonna touch it. Um, where was I? Yeah, for now, I don't think I'm gonna touch macros, but at some point later on, I might look into it because there are certain situations where it could be easier. In fact, actually, I feel like even now I might run into situations where I might need to create a macro for something. Though I would then have to ask myself, like, is this really a situation that cannot be handled with a regular function? Do I absolutely need a macro for it? That would also be something, worth questioning. And then there's this thing, foreign function interface, which is, at least from what I understand, it's what allows interoperability between Rust and other languages like C++, for example. So you can use this to kind of uh, communicate with a library that's written in C++. Okay, all right. So I think I'm done with this. I didn't define the variable in this way. I defined it in a slightly different way. I defined it using this the actually no, I did define it in one of the variables, but in the other variable it was using the macro method. Okay, so then that's done as well. I've done the pushing thing. I've done the I haven't done the get thing, but I did try accessing it using the index based approach, or using the square brackets kind of thing. And I also tried making the program panic by accessing index out of bounds. What else is there? Yeah, I think that's about it. Loop through the list and print each. Okay, I have a good question here. Give it a try and let me know how it goes, or if you have questions. Okay, I've tried it. I didn't use your code, but instead I wrote my own code to um, test out vec new and vec this and push and accessing index out of bounds to make the program panic, and also iterating. And this is okay. So earlier I was talking about this thing. I think I then kind of branched out and went on a tangent about various other stuff. But this is something that reminded me that I need to keep the concept of the borrow checker in mind in Rust, because the ownership thing, it definitely it creeps up on you, if especially if you're not used to Rust's ownership system. It's something that'll creep up on you. So instead of borrowing a value, if you have just passed in a variable, then the ownership the ownership gets transferred. So then the value is moved from one owner to another. And then if you try to access that same value from that other variable later on, you're going to get an error. In fact, the code might not even compile at that point, because the borrow checker figures out that, oh yeah, you have this issue here. You're trying to access this variable after the value has been moved. And then it shows you also that you have moved it from this point to this point. This is something that I actually really like about Rust. Let me give you an example. And this might be like specific to, this might be specifically because of the Rust analyzer, or maybe something else. I'm not sure. Um, I think it might be. I need to look into what Clippy does, because I've seen Clippy popping up in some other. Wait, did the browser load? Yeah, the browser loaded. Let me just check what is Rust Clippy. Clippy is a linter. Okay, so it might be Clippy responsible for this. Maybe not necessarily, or maybe it's a mix of Clippy and the Rust analyzer. I don't know. I don't know which one is responsible for this thing. But there is something over here. Let me show you. So let C equals string what, I don't know, from. Okay, let's do from str. Hello. Okay, so this is a string. Actually, this is not a string. This is a result. Uh, though I think this would accomplish the same thing, right? Hold on. Oh, you know what I could do? If this is a result, then I can unwrap this, right? And I can get the value out of it. So now it's going to be a string. Yes, this is a string. And now let me move this here. And now let me try to print C. Actually, am I able to just pull the string value from this? I don't know. So look at this. Um, hold on. So there's multiple things being shown here. So I'm gonna have to like expand each line to show you guys. So it says here on this line, move occurs because C has the type so and so, which does not implement the copy trait. So it's moving instead of copying. And then on the next line here, it mentions value moved here. You can see diagnostic number 2, value moved here. And then the other warnings are just for diagnostic 1 and 2 are mainly for like unused variables. So in order to get rid of that, I can add an underscore here so that it doesn't throw that warning. And now you have a more clean kind of thing where it shows you that there's a move occurring, and then there's the value is moved here. This is something I found really helpful, because the Rust analyzer, it actually shows you that, hey, this is, or maybe it's Clippy, I'm not sure, but yeah, let's just say the Rust analyzer is showing you that, hey, this is where this is where the value has been moved, and after it has been moved, then you're trying to borrow it from here, which it's mentioning borrow of moved value C. Whereas I'm not really borrowing the thing, I was actually trying to move it. Though I think maybe implicitly it might be borrowing whatever, and then it becomes an actual borrow. Let's do this. And now let's see if it prints. I don't know if you print out a string directly, it's not a string slice, it's a string. So what's it gonna print then? Let's run that. And it prints hello. Okay, it does print the string. Okay, now hold on for a second. Yeah, I think I'm ready to move forward with this thing. Oh yeah, what I was telling you guys was that when I was looking into the iteration aspect of it, where you iterate over a vector, then there's a difference between borrowing the vector versus moving the vector, or borrowing the value versus moving the value. So you're supposed to be iterating over a borrowed instance of it. You're not supposed to be iterating over that instance itself. You're not supposed to be moving the entire instance. Because if you move the entire instance, you can't use that instance anymore. So a good way to demonstrate that is here. I have this vector. I have this vector b, and it's just an array with the numbers 1, 2, 3 in it. And then here I have two for loops. Okay. So in this for loop, I'm gonna get rid of the ampersand, so it's not borrowing anymore. Now it's actually moving, which this was something I found interesting. Like, I wasn't thinking about it in this way. I need to understand how this whole concept is working. Like, within the for loop itself, the value gets moved here, and after that there's no owner. So even once the once the loop is over, there's no owner for it. So like, what exactly is happening at that point? And when does the value get completely freed? Does it get freed at the end of the method? Or, well, does it get freed at the end of the method in which the for loop is? Or does it get freed at the end of the for loop itself? That's something I need to look into. But yeah, this is to show you guys that after you've done a move, now you cannot borrow it anymore. So even here, it does the same thing. It shows you move occurs because B has the type so-and-so, and wait, which does not implement the copy trait. And then here it's saying moved due to so-and-so. It's saying consider iterating over a slice of it. Yeah. Okay. Actually, I need to look into slices as well. Because slices is another concept where you can like iterate over specific chunks of a collection. You don't have to iterate over the entire collection itself. Like, you don't have to iterate over the entire collection. You can pick a range and just iterate over that range, and then you're done. This is great. This is actually very useful. Not having to go over an entire massive, like, imagine if your list has, thousands of items, but you have a fixed range that you want to look at, then it can be very helpful. I don't know when the slice thing shows up. I think maybe slice shows up here somewhere during this point, or somewhere during this chapter. Okay. um yeah, and also iterating over the vector. It went well, and I learned quite a bit about this, including the fact that I'm supposed to borrow while iterating, not move. Let me see what Gemini's response is. Okay, we have a decent amount of information to look at. The next topic is strings. So I like that. I like that it's continuing with what it was looking into, because this chapter is divided into three topics: vector, strings, and hash map. And first we were on the topic of vectors. Now we are moving on to the topic of strings. I also like that in Gemini CLI, it has managed to format everything properly according to CLI, if that makes sense. According to the terminal, not CLI. According to, like, considering the fact that it's all being rendered in a terminal and in not in the web version or in some UI based application. Considering all of that, it is rendering it properly in the CLI or in the terminal. Like, look at this stuff. It's showing the code as well with numbers and everything. It's also coloring text here. All of these little things, they really enhance the experience. Okay, all right. Now, hold on. Okay, you know what? We're gonna do this. So we are gonna go raid a person named Jaden Laller. They are doing a co-working stream, and it says design agency and coding. So I'm not sure what exactly they are doing. Give me a second. Yeah, I'm not sure what exactly they're doing. Maybe it's like a work meeting kind of thing, but we're gonna go hang out with this person. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today's stream. I was supposed to do a mute Rust stream earlier in the day, but then I decided not to because I had some other research that I was doing. And I just kind of got busy. Yeah, yeah. So that's going to be it for today's stream. I'm going to try and finish this entire chapter today, the strings and hash map, and let's see how generics goes. And then I can move on to lifetimes. And yeah, yeah. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.